Hello, everybody. I hope you see the presentation. Okay. Um, well, I will talk about the analysis of one special uh, rhetorical figure, simile, in Serbian literary text using computational methods. Well, I will say something about simile figures first, about the corpus used, how we have what result we obtained, and I will give some conclusion remarks. Well, what are these simile figures? Are they literary comparisons, a weaker form or metaphoric expression, or completely distinctive figure of speech? That is something that literary uh, specialists are discussing about. But what is important to say is that this is one rhetorical figure which plays an important role in literary texts. They are often quite conventionalized, which means that members of one linguistic community very well understands them, accepts them, and use them often. They are explicit form of comparison, but essentially they are figurative, which means that they make some unexpected connections between concepts that are unlike. Basically, similes have a multi-word structure, a recognizable surface form consisting of some fixed elements. They can have be either a closed simile, which have a three-part structure, as seen here in this example. She was free as a bird, so these three elements are ground, free, marker, as, and vehicle, a bird. Or it can be an open simile with two-part structure. She was as a bird. We'll just continue. So the corpus has to be the text that enter in the corpus has to be originally written in the language of the sub-collection, and the first publication date should fall between 1814 and 1920, and they should be at least 10,000 words long. The Serbian sub-collection is still under construction, and the whole corpus is still under construction. But for this research, we used 41 novels. Eventually, at the end, the Serbian part of the corpus should contain 100 novels. But for this research, we used 41 novels that are candidates for this sub-collection. And these novels are of exceptional value for the history of Serbian literature. Here are some data about corpus distribution. We see that it is not balanced or in either of these criteria, which is not to be expected for the Serbian language, which at that time the literature is being developed, to say. So at the moment of the compilation of this corpus, for this research, we didn't have novels from the first period, and we didn't have so-called long novels, which are not the tradition of the Serbian literature. Also, the female authors were not as presented as male authors. Here we see how the corpus was partitioned according to authors. There are 25 different authors, and of course the size is different because some authors wrote several novels, some authors wrote longer novels than the others, and so on. And about something about simile retrieval and annotation. How have we retrieved the similes in our corpus? First of all, we used the electronic dictionary of Serbian, which has also some multi-word expressions, among them some simile figures. And this dictionary enables to recognize morphological forms of these multi-word expressions, as well as some variations, like as we see here in this example, some word order. So we see here one simile, hungry as a wolf. In Serbian, it can be gladan kao vuk, but also the other way around, kao vuk gladan. This can be described by electronic dictionaries. But in order to retrieve as many similes as possible from our corpus, we have used the Unitex system, the Serbian morphological dictionaries, and we used a very simple regular expression as we see here, just in order to fish possible examples. All possibilities were then we then checked them and selected those that we think are examples of simile figures. So we fished with blade cow, and then we obtained blade cow smrt, pale as death, žut kao vosak, yellow as wax. But we also observed that there are a number of variations occur in the use of similes that cannot be described by electronic dictionaries. There are variations in the ground and in the vehicle, but also in the marker. In the ground and in vehicle, synonyms can be used. For instance, various forms of practically an adjective with a practically synonymous meaning, mekah, mekan, soft, used in a figure soft as a feather. Also, marker can be used in different forms. Many of these are not literary forms, but they occur in literary texts in order to simulate a speech. Then there are a vehicle in a similar figure can be modified, for instance, with an adjective. So one can say red as a crayfish, but also red as a fried crayfish. There can be adjuncts. For instance, one can say free as a bird, but also free as a bird on a bough, or free as a bird in a wood. Also, a determiner in a form or adjectival pronoun can be used, wise as a priest, but also wise as some priest. There are also variations due to free word form. So there can be insertions of an auxiliary. For instance, you are red as a ripe pomegranate. So here we see an auxiliary occurring in the simile figure. Then a subject or tenor can be inserted also, or some pronoun. There are also possible rephrasings, so we can have žut kao što je slama, yellow as straw is. That would be a literary translation. So we try to obtain some form of general simile description in the form of finite state automata, where we developed first generic finite state automata that describe various simile structures that we have obtained analyzing possible variations. Then we described the tactic similes in the form of a table, and then use this table and generic graph to automatically produce specific graphs that are then used for retrieval. These graphs are all in the form of the finite state automata implemented in the Unitex corpus processing suite, and they all rely on Serbian morphological dictionaries. Here is one generic graph that describes various word order insertions and modifications. And some of the notes in this graph are actually referred to the cells in the table that describe these simile figures. The table looks like this. So one line is one simile figure where some variations are in the cells, some variations are described. For instance, Bell, white can be in Ekavian or Ekavian form. Then Mali, small can be lexical variants, etc. And with these two, automatically is produced a specific graph where now in the nodes we have either literals or references to electronic dictionary of Serbian. Here, this one specific graph recognizes the figure white as snow with all possibilities for white and for snow and some addition. This produce specific automata where enable both retrieval of simile figures and recognition similes as phrases, and they are marked as we can see here. Since I have lost some time because of this line breaking, I will skip some slides and go directly to some analysis. I will just say that we have retrieved more than 400 occurrences of more than 250 distinct adjectival similes. Among them, mostly one adjectival ground is used, but sometimes two, like healthy and ruddy as an apple. We also see here in this figure that the specificity of use of these figures, of these similes is presented here. We see that some authors are bound to use these figures more often than the others. I will skip this. I will say just that we also classify these figures to see that some of them mostly describe physical characteristics of object or people. They also are used for colors and for person's character or abilities. The most frequent adjective used is white, most oftenly to say white as a snow, white as a milk. The most often noun is used is stain or rock in order to say that somebody is cold or something is cold as a rock. The most frequently used similes are white as snow and pale as that. Skip also this. As for the conclusion, I will just say that we have retrieved similes in this corpus. We developed a method for the description of these figures and their retrieval in subsequent texts, and also it will enable us to retrieve more similes and fill our table with more simile figures. In the future, we will work with other types of simile figures, for instance, those that use prepositional phrases as well as verbal similes, not only adjectival. We will enrich the current annotation scheme with attributes that indicate semantic characteristic of recognized similes, and we plan to when our corpus will be finished, we plan to publish a database of simile figures obtained in this corpus. I would like at the end to thank the cost action that enabled the production of this corpus, and also the numerous volunteers from the Society for Language Resources and Technologies who helped the production of this corpus by correcting and annotating the novels. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank you for staying with us and being able to connect again. I